we couldn't break away from this show because it wasn't over yet. 3 hours in the pay-per-view, plus an hour or hour and a half of the pre-show. The bell rings for the AEW World Tag Team title match with FTR and our friends Aussie Oldham. And the people have been sitting there for between 4 and 4.5 hours, plus whatever time they came in before the matches started. And God, now that I think about that, Brian, if the pre-show started at 6:30, that was 3:30 local time. The people had to be in the building about 3:15 at the latest. Would they leave their homes? They left their homes shortly after lunchtime, and they were still watching wrestling at pretty much 8 o'clock at night. No, I'm sorry, 9 o'clock, because it was midnight on the East Coast. So they were still watching. They watched wrestling or were on the way to the fucking show for the better part of more than half the day. All right. Anyway, FTR and Aussie Oldham. Old Kyle Fletcher and old, what's his name? Ned Davis, Mark Davis.
Aussie Open. Do you now see what I said before when I said the one guy looks like Cash and Dax had a giant baby?
Yes.
He's a perfect mix of the two of them.
But don't correct me on their name, because Nigel McGuinness is calling him Ozzy Osbourne.
I'll correct him when I see him.
So I'm thinking at this point, okay, Ozzy both may look like Ned in their own way, but at least we've got a wrestling match. I'll take it at this point. And I thought that I was going to like this because I don't know how long it was, but if it was 15 minutes, I liked the first 10. And it wasn't because it was too long. It was because of what they did the last 5 minutes. But nevertheless, I'll digress and I'll put them over first. FTR were the smoothest and the most professional pro wrestlers on the show, with the timing and the basics and the pace. They're moving, but it's not too fast. They're using pro wrestling moves. It's not just a bad Japanese indie tribute match, right? Fletcher took a backdrop, actually took 2 of them. When Dax and Mark Davis, the big guy, when they traded the chops, it was like they meant it. And they were exchanging blows like a fight. They weren't standing there, I dare you hit me, I'll let you. And really the first, when FTR are in control and they're controlling the pace and calling everything, it's usually pretty impeccable. When they started getting the heat on Cash and Ozzy were in control, again, the problem is they're not over because they've had no serious TV time, very few promos. They're not a top-tier tag team. Like I said, one guy looks like the other guy's delinquent fucking nephew. Their look is, the team name is stupid, and their look doesn't fit both of them. Once again, the Mark Davis, the bigger, older, rougher looking guy, he's wearing a flashy green tights and whatever that the young guy with the weird haircut might look good in. But the young guy with the weird haircut doesn't look like he ought to be hanging out with the old guy. You see what I'm saying here? They just look odd.
No, I do think that and again, I haven't seen a ton of their stuff. I've seen a good amount, and I've seen their previous match with FTR from a year ago. They look like they should be in 2 different tag teams. They don't have a look that matches.
So the name, they're from Australia. Great, big deal. What's open about them? The name doesn't work. The individual names are John Smith. Nothing stands out. They don't look like they belong together, and they need some other kind of fucking clothing that at least would bring the 2 of them together. So point being, when they're getting heat on fucking FTR, the people are kind of like, because who gives a shit? Nobody thinks they're going to win. And then, after a long heat, Fletcher nailed Dax off the apron, and Cash took over and set Fletcher up on the top rope and hit a belly to back off the top on Fletcher, which interrupted the flow of the heat. It's like making your own comeback, but it wasn't even as exciting because it took longer, but he was in control. And then Cash went to tag again because Dax had been nailed off the apron, or he would have tagged, but you didn't have to do a belly to back off the top. So that kind of put the kibosh on the heat they'd gotten. And then when he went to tag again, they pulled Dax off the apron again and got more heat. Now I'm saying too long now. And finally, Cash backdropped Fletcher and hit the tag to Dax after milking the tag, so they got a pop. And again, nice comeback, but the crowd was tired. And Aussie ain't over. So they popped for Dax's high impact stuff, but they weren't. Part of the great reaction of a hot tag and a comeback is that the people want to see the heel get the shit kicked out of him for all the shit he's just done to the babyface and for the heat that he already has. These people were not happy about who Dax was beating up. They just liked seeing his moves. So that's the difference. And then I wrote lots of back and forth, and I said they need to go. And then they did more shit. The heels did more shit to Dax, and they were tagging in and out. No, you don't need that. Get it done. And then tons of false finishes and more heel tags. And FTR hit the superplex splash, but then they did a spot where Fletcher dove on Dax and they fell on him for the save. And then a four-way in the middle and another heel tag. So the heat's been done so long ago, they might as well not have done it at all. And more false finishes. FTR spike pile drove Davis on the apron. And then Fletcher dove on FTR. And then FTR gave Fletcher the shatter machine off the top rope. Finally, 1, 2, 3. It was the best wrestling match of the night until Cash hot tagged Dax. And when Dax made his comeback, and they didn't go home in the next 2 minutes, then they just started doing everything ever done to beat a mid-card tag team that the fans don't give a shit about. And this is FTR's problem. They think everything has to be a classic or it will ruin their reputation as the best ever. But the problem is the rest of the teams they're working with ain't up to a classic. They either can't remember it, they can't execute it, or nobody wants to see them do it to begin with. Because it's too much for people who aren't over. And this was a 5 fucking hour show. Oh, good God. Have I conveyed that in any clear terms?
Yeah, I think so. It was an all right match. And I think that is sometimes something we see with FTR. Sometimes they do more with certain guys than they probably need to. But with that said, they probably see Aussie Open a bit different than we do. They see a little bit more of the history there and a tag team they like working with.
Okay, they ought to look at it like the fans do. And the fans say, who are these fucking guys? I haven't seen much of them. I don't remember hearing them talk. If they do, it doesn't stand out. They look odd together. And they're not at FTR's level.
During the match, I almost thought they may win. Because I was just thinking, surely they cannot do another Bucks FTR match now. There's no demand for it. Why not do something different?
Oh, there's big demand for the Bucks against Aussie Oldham.
No, but at least it would have been something different that could have gone somewhere else.
Yeah, something different would be instead of kicking you in the balls, I'll fucking hit you with a fucking stick, but it'd still be a shot in the balls.